get a lot of backlash from people who don't necessarily agree with me or who don't like me. But I can tell you for a fact that that has never affected us. Like, we've never had an argument about it. But I can't say the same for every other girl. It's very easy to get a foreign passport. That's not the reason why you should marry the wrong person. Compatibility is someone that not necessarily like us, because for a lot of people, you cannot live with yourself. You can't live with yourself.
Would you say there's a risk to the marriage where social media is involved?
Exactly. My wife wanted to go to the club. I'm like, no, I don't agree with that. I'm trying to influence her in that moment to a point where she's like, okay, that makes sense. There is no need for me to go to the club. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But control will be me holding her and saying, you're not going, we're dragging her.
And today we'll be diving into a conversation that I believe is going to apply to a lot of people. We're going to be speaking truths that are very related to marriage. And I thought about bringing no other person than someone who I believe is big on saying the truth. And so welcome, Solomon, to this conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Daniel. Thank you for having me after the long back and forth. I'm so sorry.
No worries. I'm really honored to have you on this. Thank you very much for honoring me on this.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, so I'm just going to dive right into the conversation. I've been watching a bit of your journey on Instagram, your tweets, your videos. I know you started doing some headshot videos now. And I believe you seem to do a lot on marriage in your conversations, amongst other topics. Why is marriage a big deal for you?
I think it's a big deal because, I mean, a lot of people are getting married, a lot of young people are getting married, and often, marriage, our choices in marriage can literally make or mar us, right? And marriage is very important in culture, in society, because out of marriage, that's where you have family, and out of family, that's where you now have the society, right? Do you see what I'm saying? So it really matters to me when we talk about marriage, because that's a very good starting point for us to start catalyzing change and just doing things the right way.
Right. I mean, that's why this podcast exists anyways, because we realize there's a big importance to it. And even the so-called established people seem to sometimes have an issue with their marriage. And I feel like it's a topic that needs to be talked about. We don't study marriage in school, and somehow it just comes to us, That's why I believe there should be platforms like this to talk about it. I'll just go right to my next focus on this in this conversation. The immediate thought that comes to mind for every Nigerian when it comes to dating outside of, say, Nigeria is jackpot plans and all these sort of things. You know what I mean? And I know the likes of Tim Godfrey, likes of Moses Bliss, likes of Theophilus Sunday, and you as well, are people I know that are married outside of Nigeria, maybe Nigerians outside of Nigeria, stuff like that, and of course you guys are high value men, I believe, and your approach is not necessarily jackpot plans, definitely. So I just want to know, you say you approach marriage as a contract where you think about the long term, or you factor in the citizenship of the person you're getting married to?
No. So, I mean, marriage is not business. Marriage is not a contract. Marriage is a covenant. Marriage is a community of two people, and ideally should be people who understand what it means to love, to sacrifice, to be accountable, especially as Christians, So no, I do not approach marriage from a very fickle perspective of, what's the person's citizenship? In fact, even before I met my wife, I was talking to somebody who had broken my heart. I mean, she was born and bred in Nigeria, so, but it's beautiful when the person who you've decided to give your heart to, when they are good for your life, and you can see that you have a good future. It's beautiful when there are other perks that come with it, isn't it? Maybe they are citizens of, the UK or whatever, or maybe they are very educated, or maybe just different perks. But I don't think that should be the main focus. Well, at least it wasn't for me. Even if I had met my wife, there were lots of some people who, they had foreign passports if I wanted to. But for me, that is not the goal. It's very easy to get a foreign passport. Very easy in the sense that you just need to be in the country for 5 years, especially here in England, and you get your passport. That's not something you necessarily need somebody to help you facilitate, or that's not the reason why you should marry the wrong person. But yeah, I don't know if that answered your question well.
I get that. I mean, apparently you approach marriage from a more concrete standpoint, and then you saw the perks, other perks you probably considered, and then it was good to have. But it was not actually the priority for you, or it was not necessarily the first thing you put on the table. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Right. I want to paint a scenario. There's imagine a dating couple there where they enter into the relationship out of love, emotion, and all of that. But along the way, they find that they can't go on together. They feel like they're not compatible with each other. But their emotions are very strong and involved. But then they're seeing a roadblock ahead of them. A roadblock in the sense that maybe the man is into a certain field, and then from the perspective of things, he's not looking like the woman is going to be able to fit into that picture, or it could be the other way around, stuff like that. Would you say they go ahead out of love or not? And it's possible to have dated and not know stuff. And maybe in the journey of dating, you find what your actual purpose is, and you now decide you want to make adjustments and all that. So, what would you advise couples like that?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. I think that compatibility is very important, but I think that in our generation we are very fixated on compatibility as a rigid thing. So, for example, people believe that soulmates are automatically compatible, right? The idea we have about compatibility is basically someone that's like us, which is it's a very flawed way of looking at compatibility. Compatibility is someone that is not necessarily like us, because for a lot of people you cannot live with yourself. You can't live with yourself, but it's like somebody that balances you up, right? And it's very important for us to also understand that there are lots of aspects of compatibility that can be learned, right? There are lots of aspects of compatibility that you can develop, right? So it's not cast in stone. Oh yeah, we're not compatible, so this cannot work. Now, I'm not saying that people should jump into marriages just based on love, no. And when I say love, what I mean is based on romantic love, because as Christians, we have the agape love, which is the love of God, the pure unconditional love, which that love transcends just feelings. It's more about, in fact, that love is compatible, because that love is patient, it is caring, it doesn't think of evil, it doesn't keep records of wrongdoings, it does not boast. Do you see what I'm saying? So that love by itself is compatible. But I mean, we're not angels, we're not Jesus, we have flesh and blood, and what that means is that we will always err here and there, so our love will still be imperfect sometimes. So I think that definitely have conversations about the kind of future that you want, the kind of future that you have pictured, and you will not always agree, but then there should be a fine compromise. When I say fine compromise, I mean a compromise that does not take away from the essence of what you really want. It might just improve, or it might just give space for the other person's perspective too. But in the absence of not being able to come to a reasonable compromise, I'd say speak to your pastor, speak to a trusted third party, talk about these things, because courting is really the time to talk about these things. Is the time to look at the map. Okay, from here to here, if you watch them action movies or like war, movies, you see when the army people, like, they're in their room and they're looking at, okay, when we strike here, we move here, that's literally what dating is about. So when you are dating, every concern is valid. It is valid, especially when it impacts the quality of the life you want in marriage eventually. So I think that, to your question, I believe I've answered it, but I'm just going to summarize it. I don't think that you should just go ahead, because going ahead to get married to somebody you have issues with will not fizzle away the issues. You can only hide it in the background, but it will always come up, even with resentment later. So I think it should be addressed. And if you guys end up not seeing eye to eye, and it is something that really matters to you on a fundamental level, then it's honestly it's better to just part your ways.
All right. Let's just switch from the pre-marriage phase to the marriage phase now. I've observed a trend lately. When couples get married, they become social media couples in the sense that they using their surnames, they create an ambit for themselves on Instagram and stuff like that. And they start reading out content that showcase what's going on in the family. And some people call it say kingdom marriage, where they're showing a lot of things going on within the marriage. Now, this is a recent development. I cannot say if it's actually helping marriages to be stronger, but I'm aware. I mean, I know you have something similar for your family. I want to know. Would you say there's a risk to that kind of approach to marriage where social media is involved, and what boundaries should be set around it, or what boundaries would you say you set in your own case?
Yeah, so the page that I created was a podcast page actually for my wife and I. It wasn't really a typical, oh, come and follow our love story kind of thing. We're gonna show you what's happening in our homes. It was literally just us, having discussions and recording it and just putting it out there. Because I love couples who have pages. I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing, but I think that there is a pressure that can come with immediately you get married, you open a page and you begin to show the world, especially if you don't have boundaries, right?
Right.
I do not think that is the best thing, but if it is done with initiative, if it's done with boundaries, I think it's not bad. Well, for me, everybody thinks that they know stuff about you, but everything you share is what you decide to share.
Right.
So, for example, me, I curate everything I share. So oversharing is not really the same to all of us. As long as you're not sharing anything, obviously anything intimate, or anything that can implicate your marriage, right? But for me personally, whatever I share is what I'm fine with people knowing. There are loads of things that I have left people to assume about. There are loads of things I haven't even spoken about about a lot of things when it has to do with my marriage with my wife or our relationship on social media. I haven't actually spoken about it. There are things I will never talk about on social media. So I think to each their own, but I'd rather say before you bring your marriage on social media, please make sure that you know who your partner is. Make sure that you've built a bond that the opinions of people cannot change. Right. For example, my wife and I, we get a lot of backlash from people who don't necessarily agree with me or who don't like me. But I can tell you for a fact that has never affected us. Like, we've never had an argument about it. But I can't say the same for every other couple. There might be couples who have had argument about it, or it's causing an issue in their marriage because one of them is immersed in what other people are saying. So if you must do that, make sure that you know who your partner is and you have a very strong foundation. Please don't build your marriage in the public. Right? It's more than content. It's real life. So please don't just do things in your marriage for the camera. Yeah.
One more observation around that is the fact that I feel like in a way it's keeping marriages. I don't know. Maybe couples are beginning to find that a way to stay stronger, because when you believe that a lot of eyes are on you, a lot of people are looking up to you now because they're watching, it makes you resolve a conflict quickly, I guess, or makes you want to just get back together so you don't make it obvious that something is going on. Might be wrong, but I don't know what you think about that.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but that can also make people stay in disastrous marriages because of what people will say. Do you see what I'm saying? So as much as I'm not a fan of this fake divorce that everyone is always advocating for now, but I believe that there are it gets to a point in marriage where it's almost inevitable for one person to leave, even if it's temporarily. So in a case like that, and you are bound by what people think, by public opinion, it becomes very difficult because you are in the marriage not just for yourself, but for what your fans will say, which is not a good way of living.
I get that. Just think about leadership in marriage. I've heard you say have conversations around a man being the head and being the leader of the family and all that. But then I also recall a podcast I had recently with someone, and the lady said she wants a man that can control her.
Control is not supposed to be in marriage. It's just about leadership and influence. You know what I'm saying?
No,
So at the end of the
no.
day,
I still think that there's a part of control if you ask me. Let me give you an instance.
Would you say there's control in leadership, or would you say in marriage leadership as a man there should be some form of control over your wife?
To be honest, it's semantics. It's really semantics because we are controlled one way or the other. But it depends on the mode of control, what necessitates the control. I'd say influence would be a better choice of word. Yes, we control ourselves in the sense that, I want to do something, I let my wife know. Like, there is that consideration, that immersive consideration that, every decision that I make, as long as it has to do with the family, even the ones that doesn't have to do with the family, my wife has to know, right? But I wouldn't want to use the word control because of the negative connotation around it. I would say influence. I would say we are accountable to ourselves. Yes, definitely. Control is quite a very strong word because control literally means having someone do whatever you want them to do in a manner that is not reasonable.
Yeah,
right? No, that's not it. Influence is that somebody can do stuff because of you. Do you see what I'm saying? So control comes externally. There has to be some form of impact. Influence comes internally. So for example, if my wife, I'm just using this as an example, if my wife wanted to go to the club, I mean, we are Christians and we don't club, we're very conservative, and I'm like, no, I don't agree with that. I'm telling her why, and I'm trying to influence her in that moment to a point where she's like, okay, that makes sense. There is no need for me to go to the club. Do you see what I'm saying? But control will be me holding her and saying, you're not going anywhere, dragging her. Now I'm exerting external force on her. Do you see the difference?
Yeah,
so yeah.
I like the way you put it. Influence is more making the person do something because of you. I think that's the way you put it. Because of you, not
because of you and because of the marriage, of course.
Marriage, nice. So I just got two more questions, and I tend to ask this question in all the podcast towards the end of it. Would you say build your life and then marry? Especially because you don't want to get into marriage and feel like, you're not able to meet peers, especially when you have witnesses of married men who are struggling in marriage, stuff like that. Would you say build your life and then marry, or marry and then build together?
Yeah, see, whether you marry or not, you will struggle. So is it not better to struggle with somebody by your side? Like, I'm just being very, very direct. I think that when you have a source of income and you can pay for accommodation, you can pay for food,
Right.
I think that, and then you are mentally and emotionally and spiritually ready, I think that you should get married. See, nobody gets to a point where they feel they have enough, especially because as humans, our wants are very insatiable. Right. So I will personally say, when you get to the point where your basic needs are not a struggle, no longer a struggle, you don't struggle to eat, you don't struggle to pay your rent, get married. Get married. Because all the wealth you're trying to build is for what? All the things the money you're trying to make is for what? At the end of the day, life is beautiful with companionship when you have somebody who's in your corner. So if you build your first house, listen, I just think that life is life regardless. There are people who still build all of these things, get married, lose everything. Life happens. So it's better to have somebody by your side that you know that loves you, that roots for you. Come what may, they are always there for you. I think that life is more beautiful like that. And then number two, everybody will not be stupendously rich. Right? You know, the person watching me now might not be rich. So a lot of people will live average lives. An average life is not bad. Let's stop this thing. Living an average life is not bad. For example, being an average income earner in the UK, I believe that the income range averagely is like 35k or 30k. Some people earn that and they send their children to school. You see what I'm saying? So living an average life is not going to be bad. Start your life, you know, and take it little by little. And then marriage also is an economic hack, because, you know, you tend to spend less than people who are not married. So it's even better economically for you to get married to someone. Obviously, if they also have something that they're doing, you save more, you can get a house soon, you can do certain things, you have more flexibility financially than if you were by yourself.
That's it. Yeah, it's interesting. I see very controversial, I'd say, because I mean, you said something about if you can cater for the basic things and get married.
Yeah.
But I mean, that also would control the kind of person you're able to get married to, or the kind of person you're able to attract at that point in time. Imagine, I don't even get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I get you, but then I think we're also saying it with a very big consideration for materialism.
Okay.
Because when you see the kind of person you attract, then you don't need that kind of person. Let's be real. Even as men, one of the things that are killing men is that men want the high class babes. And a lot of times it's not because they love the high class babes. It's just because they want to show off.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? He wants to show his man that I mean gets this one, bag this one. That's not what you want. That's not what you need in your life, because that kind of person comes and they drain you.
I love that. Right, so let's go into the final question now. What would you say people misunderstand the most about marriage? I know you are learning a lot since you got married, right? And there are things you've had to unlearn. From your experience so far, what would you say people misunderstand the most about marriage?
I don't even know where to start, because that's a very loaded question. Where do I even start from? I'd say, I don't know what people misunderstand the most.
Sir?
I don't know what people misunderstand the most, but let me think. I'd say that you are marrying a human being with flesh and blood. And a lot of times when we're wooing people in the courting stage, we only see the nice things about them. Marriage is a balance between strength and weaknesses. As much as you are marrying that person's strength, you will be marrying their weaknesses.
Right.
So a lot of times people are very focused on this person is this person is this, this person is this. Please also think about what they are not. Can you cope with what they are not? Can you cope with who they are not? Right. So yeah, let me just put it that way, because a lot of times we're just fixated on what we want to see. Then when you get married, you now see that, wow, this person is deeply flawed, and then you think you want to leave, or it's not worse with you. You married a human being. That's it. That's a human being. The same way you also have your own weaknesses. And some of those weaknesses, they will get better with in the first 10 years of the marriage. Some 20 years of the marriage. Some never. So marriage is a long game. Like when you marry somebody, it's a long game. There are things that they will change in the next 20 years. Some things they will never change. Some things you have to endure and be patient with for all your life, But there is one hack, because I find people who like to compare themselves. The hack is that focus on the nice things, on the good things about your spouse. Because if you focus on the ugly things, the things you think they're not doing well, the things they should do better, you will resent them. You have to focus on the beautiful things while you believe God and you trust in the journey for them to get better.
Uh,
Yeah, that's it.
Focus on the things the partner is doing better than what you're not.
Exactly.
Interesting. I take that as like a closing advice, closing comment. And I appreciate your time on this podcast.
Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it, Daniel. Thank you for having me.
Have a great one ahead of you.
Yeah, you too. Bye bye.